Why do you hate Will Howard? I've never understood this about the quarterback at certain universities. Will Howard seems to now be a controversial figure in the world of Ohio State football. And I think if you've watched this show for any amount of time, I am a big believer in Will Howard. I believe that Will Howard is the exact right guy for that offense. He's been a great fit for Chip Kelly since the moment he arrived on campus. And say it with me. Will Howard is having a historically good season for Ohio State football. He's having one of the best seasons any quarterback has ever had at the Ohio State. And what I love is that we get these competitions and we get these fans and former players, and he's not good enough. He hasn't done this. He's no JT Barrett. Let me ask you, where does Will Howard's season fit in the history of Ohio State football? Is it CJ Stroud of a couple of years ago? It is certainly not. But is it Justin Fields? It certainly is. Is it JT Barrett? It certainly is. Will Howard is having one of the great seasons in the history of Ohio State football, and there's no reason to rip him. There's no reason to criticize him. I understand it. Will Howard's a transfer. He's a one-year guy. He's not even your guy. But Will Howard, in my opinion, is the exact right guy for this football team. And when you win the college football playoff on Monday night against the beloved, Will Howard's going to be a big reason why.
Yeah, and I think that, Will Howard is someone who has been through the adversity, right? He's helped lead this team, and I think it's really interesting that he, through no fault of his own, has turned into someone that people just like to hate on. And part of me just thinks maybe this isn't necessarily about Will himself. Maybe the numbers are just, a side effect of people being pissed that a one-year transfer has essentially led the Ohio State Buckeyes to what everyone thinks is going to be a national championship on Monday. And maybe that's what this is. But I think that people need to get on board with the idea we're going to see more of this. And Will Howard is just one of the first guys to do this. We're going to see this almost on a yearly basis now with transfer portal and the NIL situation. Will Howard was in a bad situation in an offense that was suffocating him because of the conservative play calling and all the in-breaking routes 5 yards down the field. And so what did he do? He went somewhere trying to accomplish two goals. Number one, he needed to improve his draft stock. He knew that he wanted to play in the NFL, and to do that, he had to go somewhere that allowed him to throw the ball down the football field and show off his talent. Obviously, Ohio State checks those marks, so he's accomplished that. But secondly, obviously, Will Howard wanted to win a national championship like most guys on his level want to do, which he's also close to accomplishing. So if you're an Ohio State fan or really a fan of college football, I just don't understand why all the hate for Will Howard. This is someone who's grinded. This is someone who was in a bad situation, now better situation. Like, he's doing everything you'd want a guy to do. Yet here we are, and you've got all kinds of people saying, oh, well, he's average. He's not very good.
Dwayne Haskins.
Who cares?
Will anybody ever have the season that Dwayne Haskins had in 2018? What did he throw, 50 touchdowns? No. But what I think is hysterical is you have so many people saying, well, he's no Troy Smith. Yeah, he is. He's better than Troy Smith. Oh, well, Marty, he's no JT Barrett. Yeah, he is. He's better than JT Barrett. Better than JT Barrett. You look at the best seasons at Ohio State. Dwayne Haskins in 2018, single best season any quarterbacks ever. 50 touchdowns and 4,800 passing yards.
It's all
if somebody beats that, knock yourself out, dude. Congratulations. But when you look at Will Howard, 3,779 yards, third all time for a single season. Better than, like, I had a Joe Germain conversation the other day. He's way better than Joe Germain, right? He's in my opinion, he's better than Justin Fields. He's better than JT Barrett, who's another name that comes up. He's better than Troy Smith. He's better, like Terrell Pryor. Do you guys understand that Terrell Pryor, as gifted of a quarterback as Terrell Pryor could have been, Terrell Pryor never lived up to his numbers. You look at his numbers. Do you understand that Terrell Pryor's best season is 1,000 yards behind Will Howard?
Yeah, and I think, Terrell Pryor is a really interesting example, right? Dual threat guy, really incredibly gifted at the college level. But why does that matter in parlance to this conversation? Well, it matters because people think of Terrell and they think, oh, well,
He's
all-world
amazing.
quarterback. He's incredible. What an amazing quarterback in Ohio State history, not understanding that Will Howard is not the runner that Terrell was, but Will Howard is a better passer than Terrell Pryor was. Will Howard is facing better competition. And this is the other thing that never comes up for all the JT Barrett guys.
Yeah.
Will Howard is playing some of the best athletes on defense college football has ever seen. Again, just want to point this out. And you've been on this train since the beginning of the college football playoff, since we played one college football game or college football playoff game, since before that. This run out of Ohio State and Will Howard has to be studied. It's one of the best runs in college football playoff history.
I think it is one of the best. Now, the hard part is the money has changed the game.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Downs, Will Howard, like the money has changed the game. But what this Ohio State team is doing, especially through the college football playoff, we've never had a 12-team playoff before. But to beat Tennessee, to beat Oregon, that on its own would be remarkable.
And you didn't just beat them by like 3 points.
No, you handled.
Yeah, you throttled them.
And then you throw in Texas. And then to cap it off, the cherry on top of the sundae, granted, not on those three teams level, but then you're going to beat Notre Dame in the national championship. Who's had a path like that? This is a historically significant season in college football. And the Ohio State is in position. I would be, and I don't know what you guys think in the comment section, I'd be shocked if Ohio State did not win that game.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, am I alone in this world? Yeah, I think I am. Because when I start looking at Malik Zaire, Malik, you were not very good at the beloved. You weren't. All the great QBs Ohio State has had the last 15 years is Howard is definitely the worst one by far. And Ohio State fans are trying to convince me that he's going to lead them to a chip. Malik Zaire is a former Notre Dame quarterback, and I use the word quarterback lightly. I'd even take the OG Jalen Marshall at QB before Howard. And you guys wonder and ask me why I think Notre Dame's got no shot in this game. This is why we have no shot in this game. Will Howard isn't better than Riley Leonard. Is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Will Howard is 3 times? 4 times better than Riley Leonard?
Yeah, I think that Will Howard is
come on.
You know, and again, I like Riley as a dude. He's a great leader on the team, like awesome. Great with the people. And that's valuable. Will Howard is a threat in so many different ways that Riley Leonard is not. And that's ultimately why they're going to win the game. If you think about Notre Dame's path here, they've not seen a quarterback on Will Howard's level. They've not seen a wide receiver room on his level. Like,
listen to Will Howard's. Do you guys understand the season Will Howard has had? What do you think his completion percentage is? Will Howard threw the ball 402 times this year. What do you think his completion percentage is?
Well, what was his completion percentage last year at K-State?
61%.
All right. So going to Ohio State, better talent, better offense, 66, 67.
73%. 73% on 400 attempts.
And you tell me this guy sucks.
3,779 yards, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 173.7 rating. All the pressure, all the expectations, and his numbers are significantly better. Better wide receiver talent, significantly better offensive line.
Better running backs.
Totally get it. He's having one of the historical seasons in Ohio State football. Come on. He's got to be trolling, or is he really dumb? Apparently he's really dumb, because I don't think Malik Zaire's trolling. Wasikowski, I know exactly what the hate is, but I won't say it. Okay.
I don't know what that means, dude.
I don't know what that means. Steely, personally, I love Will Howard. 3,933, 73%. People who say he isn't good are clowns, and I dismiss immediately. But Steely, you get what I mean. Like, this is a real conversation. And the other thing that is mind-numbing to me is it's a real conversation going into a game where the number moved. Did you guys see the numbers? It opened at 9.5. It's 8. The money's coming in on Notre Dame. Please just give me your money if you're going to bet on Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, can the beloved score more than 10 points on this Ohio State defense? I don't, maybe I am, again, I'm wide open to the fact that I'm dumb and I don't know anything about sports.
Listen,
but can they score 10 points?
I don't think, when we look at this game, and obviously we're going to look at this game a lot, but we got to stop talking about Notre Dame's offense, because this ain't about Notre Dame's offense.
No.
This is about Notre Dame's defense, and if they can score on defense. That's what this is about. And when you talk about Will Howard, and, some people saying he's terrible and he's not special, all the noise. If Will Howard comes into this game and carves up that secondary, you're not going to be able to say that anymore, because he will have beat, several of the best defenses in the country to go and win a national championship. And I got news for you to all the haters. We watched the game at Nora's in Las Vegas. We watched Notre Dame take on that team. And I watched Notre Dame and I said, bro, this is not a great team right now. They're not playing their best football, and they're finding a way to skate on by. And to me, I'm just sitting here saying, Drew Aller is not Will Howard. Penn State is not Ohio State. So when you talk about, well, hey, why were they able to beat Penn State, but now all of a sudden, Ohio State's that much better? Because Ohio State's not going to struggle to throw it down the field. Will Howard, like on Prize Picks, Will Howard is going to have more than one passing yard. Like, this is different. And I just feel like guys like Malik Zaire are just sitting here hating because they know what it is.
And let's play the game, Malik. Here's what I ask Notre Dame fans, because Notre Dame fans in the comment section, Notre Dame fans on my TikTok yesterday, the battle in the comment section yesterday on my TikTok, I post TikTok highlights of the show.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to me. It is amazing to me how many Notre Dame fans are predicting Notre Dame is going to score 30 points in this game. Let me just throw some numbers out. In 15 games for the Ohio State, they're averaging. Now, are they the best defense in the Big Ten? Well, that's Indiana. Google Kirk Cignetti.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Oh, I win. Google me.
They are the best defense in the Big Ten. Suck it. Ohio State. 12.2 points a game. They're giving up 59.8% completion percentage. They're giving up 161 yards passing a game. Less than a passing touchdown a game. They're averaging 89.9 yards against on the ground. Their average pass completion against 7 yards.
That's Ohio State.
Yes. Does that not sound like Notre Dame offense? And this is what I asked yesterday, and nobody had a really good answer. What is Notre Dame's, if they win the game, if Notre Dame wins the game, what will their offense have had to do?
Run for 150.
How are you going to do that against Ohio State?
I don't know.
Ohio State rushing they're giving up, you guys, 2.7 yards a carry.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm telling you
How?
guys right now. Like, let's be really honest. And this is going to be my point on Friday and on Monday because the game's Monday. But this is going to be my point the day of the game. Notre Dame's defense and their special teams are going to have to pull trickery to win this game. Will Howard is going to have to turn the football
Multiple
over.
times.
Yeah. And whether and if it's Jack Sawyer going and getting a fumble recovery again, or like you're going to have Notre Dame get probably 3 extra possessions in this game. Probably
A special
14
teams
points.
turnover will have to happen.
Yes, a special teams turnover, a kick return for a touchdown.
You'll need that. You'll need the Penn State pick 6 on a screen pass.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll need a play like that. And the thing that I struggle with as a Notre Dame fan is the left side of Notre Dame's offensive line. This defense from Ohio State is coming for you nuts, dude. Like they have speed, they have power, they're gap sound.
Yeah.
They're disciplined. They flow to the football very well.
Yeah.
That's what I worry about. And I continue to say, like, look at the defense versus defense. Notre Dame's defense is very, very capable.
Right.
Very capable. We struggle down the field against the sideline. So, okay, Notre Dame's offense. How does Notre Dame's offense score 2 touchdowns on a team that gives up 1 per game? Is absolutely stout against the run, giving up 2.7 yards a carry against the run.
And to that point, an added layer, Notre Dame does not like to put Riley Leonard under center. They like to run him out of the pistol.
Which I hate.
Yeah.
Again, I will sit here and I guess I will die on this hill. If you are running out of the pistol, it just takes away play action, which you're going to need in this game if you are going to get, like, you look at the Penn State, the great house pass we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Does that happen against Ohio State's defense?
No.
I can't see that happening against Ohio State's defense.
And to be really specific, okay, maybe he can drop a corner. Maybe he can, right? Maybe corner slips, stuff happens. I can guarantee you this. Safety is not overrunning the play like the Penn State safety did. That ain't happening at all, even a little bit.
Stymie? No, we don't. Notre Dame destroys narratives week in and week out. What narratives has this team destroyed? Like, God, this is the delusion of Notre Dame fans that I have struggled to understand. We did not play almost anybody this season. What narratives did Notre Dame destroy? That pedophilia doesn't win football games?
Bro, are you serious?
They proved that. They didn't destroy that.
The 2 best teams are in the national championship? Are you serious?
Of what?
Notre Dame. I got news for you,
bro. The 2 best
bro.
teams of what?
I got news for you, bro. Notre Dame is not one of the best teams in college football.
But I would love to agree with you. Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Riley can't put a team on his back and lead them to victory. I agree. I totally agree with that.
He can't. He's not the reason they win games.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. That they're
You better be here Tuesday.
I'll just go back to the Notre Dame schedule. And they're 14-1. And what I ask is Texas A&M a great win? Good win, ranked team. Perdon't, Miami of Ohio, Louisville.
At that time,
ranked
that was
team.
A good win.
Good win, okay. Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and USC.
None of those teams on your schedule are as good as Ohio State.
It isn't even that. Nobody in this country right now is playing better football than Ohio State. You haven't been tested. Look at your route. Georgia's a good win. I don't care how you want to slice it.
Yeah.
Penn State's not a good football team. Penn State's offense is not a good offense. Why do you think Aller and the 2 backs are coming back? Singleton and Kaytron Allen. Why do you think they're coming back?
Because they're going to get paid more in college than they will in the NFL.
Correct. And the Big Ten is not a good conference. It's not a deep conference. And I go back and I look at Penn State, and again, I ask, is Penn State, look at their schedule, is Penn State a good team? You're lost to Ohio State and Oregon.
And now Notre Dame.
Your wins are West Virginia, Bowling. And I think at West Virginia to open the season before Neil Brown needed to be fired was a good win. Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. You beat the dregs of the Big Ten. And who did you lose to?
Yeah.
The only two quality teams you faced.
Now, again, I just want to point this out.
But you beat Indiana, right?
I
Oh, wait,
point
you didn't
this
play
out.
Indiana.
The narrative, when you want to stymie, I think is dude's name, when you want to talk about quote unquote narrative killers, the narrative of, hey, the teams you beat were the worst on your schedule, and the teams you lost to were the only teams that really were relevant in the bigger picture, has been true for Notre Dame. It's been true for Penn State. It's been true for Boise State.
Illinois in the Big Ten is a big. I'm watching like Joel Klatt, and I understand he works for Fox, and Joel Klatt waxing on and on about how good Illinois is. What's Illinois' big win? Illinois, with losses to Oregon, Penn State, and Minnesota. Eastern Illinois, Kansas, Central Michigan, Nebraska, Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State, Rutgers, and Northwestern. So Illinois, and this is Illinois. I don't know how Illinois got here. But Illinois has become this lightning rod in the Big Ten. Do you guys sit here and you really believe that Illinois is one of the 10 best teams in the country?
Come on.
You believe that Illinois' success means that the Big Ten is the best conference in college football? That's what you believe. It's the Notre Dame narrative of ranked teams. Well, you beat Army and Navy. Okay. So Army and Navy, and I'm here to play the game with you. Army and Navy for Notre Dame. Army and Navy ranked teams. You beat Army 49-14 and Navy 51-14. Let's look at Army. 19th ranked Black Knights. Their only loss was to Notre Dame and then to Navy. Here are their wins. The mighty Black Knights. Lehigh, Florida Atlantic, Rice, Temple, Tulsa, UAB, East Carolina, Air Force, North Texas, UTSA, Tulane. So, okay, well, what was the score of the Memphis? Oh, you didn't play Memphis. Okay, you beat Tulane, 9-5 team. East Carolina, 8-5. UTSA, 7-6. Rice, 4-8. Temple, 3-9. UAB, 3-9. Florida Atlantic, 3-9. Tulsa, 3-9. Oh, but Marty. No, but Marty's. But we beat Navy. Okay. Let's talk about the midshipmen at 9-3.
Right.
Best wins probably Oklahoma, but that's a bowl game. And as I've told you, I don't believe that your garden variety bowl game means anything.
Mm-hmm.
Bucknell. You know Bucknell, right? Bucknell, the Bison, 6-6 in the Patriot League. Holy cow. Temple.
Oh, you said the Patriot League.
They beat Memphis. UAB, Air Force, Charlotte. Their losses are Notre Dame, and they lost to Rice. They beat South Florida. They lost to Tulane. East Carolina, and then they beat Army.
Yeah.
So are those big quality wins? Are those wins where we are just the blood is flowing?
Stay hard.
I'm not getting excited about wins over Army, and we're Notre Dame football. Notre Dame football with Riley Leonard as a quarterback, and we're hearkening the big wins over Army and Navy. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I just think that listen, man, you can be delusional about Notre Dame. It's easy to be delusional about Notre Dame. I get it. You know, got a lot of records to lean on and yada yada yada. But the reality is, what you're not talking about is the eye test. You're not talking about what they look like on the football field. And what they looked like against Penn State was unprepared and not ready to execute a game plan.
And the sad thing about college football is you're looking at, like, even just the P4. You're looking at like one or two teams per league.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you're looking at the depth is gone because the P4 can pay more across the board.
Right.
So the argument for the Big Ten is, and Joel Klatt's argument is, well, they're going to win back-to-back national championships. Okay. But does that just erase what the SEC has done? Does that erase the depth? Do we really believe in here, just on its own face, singularly speaking?
Yeah.
Do you believe that the Big Ten is a deeper conference than the SEC?
I don't.
How do you make that? How do you make that argument? And do you make that argument, Jake?
No, I mean, I don't think you can make that argument. I don't think that anybody's going to sit here and say that the Big Ten somehow is a deeper league than the SEC. I mean, if anything, the argument should be it's easier to get to the national championship game out of the Big Ten than it is out of the SEC. And I think that is why the SEC is upset, because you know, they're playing a tougher schedule, but that tougher schedule isn't giving them brownie points with the committee. And so, yeah, sure, Joel Klatt's not wrong. Big Ten's probably going to win back-to-back national championships.
But is he right?
I don't think he's. I don't think he's right that the Big Ten is somehow a better league. I think if we're really taking an honest look at this, I don't personally, and again, don't have time for this today, I don't put a lot of credence on Michigan's national championship. And I have my thoughts, my opinions. We've played that out. You guys know what that conversation is. But, okay, they won a national championship. This year, this Ohio State team is better than anything the SEC had to offer this year. That is my opinion. So, to me, it's you maybe are going to win back-to-back national championships, but the way I see it is, you've got one national championship here if Ohio State gets the job done over the SEC. And I would agree with your point, which is a point that nobody wants to talk about, which is the SEC's dominated the college football playoff era. The ACC had a couple of years with Dabo and company.
Yeah.
The Big 12 hasn't done a damn thing. And the SEC's kind of been the one leading the way. So I'm not just going to sit here and sit here and say that the Big Ten's better because the SEC's had two, quote unquote, down years.
Yeah. And listen, I grew up as a Notre Dame Big Ten fan. And I think the league the league eats on itself. And I would do the exact same thing. I would never play, if I were the Big Ten and it was structured the way it's structured now, I'd never play a non-league game. Why would you? I mean, you have the ability to essentially send Penn State into the college football playoff without losing to really anybody until they got into Ohio State and Oregon. Or the ball buster is Oregon.
Yeah.
The issue is you can't make an argument that just because Ohio State is going to the national championship, and I think going to win the national championship, that because they win a national championship, the Big Ten is better than the SEC. What if Notre Dame somehow wins the national championship? Does that mean Notre Dame's the best team in college football?
Apparently.
I don't believe that. I still think Ohio State and Texas are the two best teams in college football.
Yeah, I just don't think it's some wild thing to say that the SEC is a deeper conference.
Yeah.
And that the Big Ten, you have an easier path through the Big Ten. I do think Ohio State's the best team in college football this year. And Ryan Day and company and Will Howard deserve a ton of credit for what they've been able to put together. That said, no, I don't think Oregon would go undefeated in the SEC. No, I don't think we're talking about Indiana after 3 weeks if they're playing an SEC schedule.
And I look at the Alabama argument is the one that pisses most people off. Look at Alabama who played real reps in their bowl game. They're 2s and 3s. It doesn't detract from Ohio State to say that the SEC is a deeper conference. It doesn't detract from the Big Ten that the SEC is a bigger conference or a deeper conference. You just have more quality. Look at the Big 12. Look at the ACC. The ACC got embarrassed in the college football playoff, which are the only bowl games that matter.
Yeah.
They're the only bowl games that matter. The SMU getting absolutely boat raced. And you look at Boise. Boise had no business in the college football playoff. But that's the system. And it's what I say about Ohio State. How did Ohio State have the most difficult road and Penn State had the easiest road? We're probably going to fix that next year, I would think. But the argument that Penn State makes the Big Ten deeper is hooey. Penn State's an average football team with a quarterback. And again, I think I've sat on the show and said this repeatedly, with a quarterback who can't throw the football. Can Drew Aller stand in the pocket and throw you to a win?
Clearly not.
He's proven he can't. Neither can Riley Leonard. Can Will Howard? Yes. Because where this started is where it'll end. Will Howard's having a historically good football season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's remarkable to me that Penn State, USC, Notre Dame, how do you not have a capable quarterback?
Yeah.
How is Alex Orji ever starting at Michigan? How is Riley Leonard the best you could do in a really strong portal at quarterback? How is Miller Moss the best that USC can do? Now, I also think it's important to say this, by the way. 2 years from now, I think the Big Ten will be the best conference in college football. Today, they're not. And it's simply a matter of the transition that inevitably happens in sports. Georgia is going to come down because it's really hard to live at the level they've lived at. When you drive cars that fast and kill people, it's really...
Oh, man.
It's really hard to live in football terms where Georgia has lived for the last few years for the long term. It's damn near impossible.
I don't know. We're going to read comments. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of, the Big Ten's the best, yada, yada. Okay, cool.
No, I'm sure it'll be. This is an SEC show now.
Hey, cool. The reality is the SEC had the most teams in the college football playoff. They're the deepest conference. They're better than your conference. And you cannot like that, but that's just what it is. Like, yeah. I don't know how we get around that.
Stymie. Penn State would have won the SEC this year. You should go to rehab.
Yeah, dude.
You need to go to rehab.
You're losing credibility by the minute by saying things like that.
So with a quarterback in an offensive league where you have quarterbacks throwing for 5,000 yards, you think that Drew Aller is good enough to win that league? No. That's a tough call. The SEC is really deep. They are. We as football fans don't like the SEC because they win.
Yeah.
I don't have fandom tied to it. I'm a Notre Dame fan. We don't win anything.
It took Nick Saban retiring for you guys to get more than one team in the college football playoff. Let's be real, right? It took Nick Saban retiring, and it took the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams for you to get more than one team into the college football playoff. And the SEC's been getting 2 in for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that the Big Ten is a better conference or has had more success, because they just haven't.
And with all 700 of you watching this show, can you really tell me that you believe the SEC, the Big Ten is deeper than the SEC.
If you believe that, that's just an emotional take because there's nothing factual to support it.
Make sure you come on over to YouTube, no matter where you're watching the show. Come on over to YouTube, hit subscribe, and hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. If you're on YouTube, please hit the like button. That really helps the channel grow. Let's see. David Persons for $2. Will the Ohio State have a versus Michigan style choke job? Well, we talk about it pretty much every week. How do you explain the Michigan loss?
Yeah, I don't think that they're gonna have a Michigan style choke job against Notre Dame. I just think you're playing in a neutral site. You are you have a ton of momentum. You know, your football club feels good. They're playing good football. Like,
yeah,
you're well past the odd vibes of the Michigan game.
I agree. Welcome to the Nightmare, who's been a member of the show for 17 months. Prime's quote yesterday was typical and classic coach talk, which is telling. Yes, it is. I think Deion Sanders is in serious talks with the Cowboys. We'll see if it goes anywhere. We'll see. Wasikowski, SEC fanboys. You know, I'm not even a fan of the SEC. I'm a fan of great college football,
which happens to be the SEC.
And,
you know,
I think I watch probably more college football than most people, which is why my predictions are usually not wrong or way off. Again, I'll go back to Penn State going to the shoe, Indiana going to the shoe. You went to die. I look at this Notre Dame Penn State game. I predicted 27-24. I just thought it would go the other way. I'm telling you. I look at Ohio State versus Notre Dame, and I can't see Notre Dame scoring more than 10 points. I hope I'm wrong. I do. John Hamm, hello. Facts don't care about your feelings, Jake. Assuming OSU wins, that's 2 national championships in a row, not 1. Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay. So facts are facts. The SEC's got 7 national championships. The Big Ten has 2.
They do. The SEC has dominated college football for years. And I think the cycle has to turn around. The Big Ten needs Oregon to figure themselves out in big games. The Big Ten needs Lincoln Riley to get deeper and better. The Big Ten needs Minnesota, Iowa. The Big Ten needs somebody, Kirk Cignetti, to figure out how to score points. It needs, like, I look at the Big Ten, and again, I'm telling you, you look for, like, Illinois is the perfect example. Illinois didn't beat anybody. So we can sit here and die on the Fighting Illini Hill, and I'm telling you, you know a quality team when you see it. How did I get Indiana right this year? Because they didn't play anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, like, Oak State James and his butthole, right? Like, we look at, he's not here today. I hope you're okay, Oak State James. I look at his take on Baylor, right? Let's get outside of the Big Ten. Let's look at Baylor, because I think this is really important. Everybody being like, oh, well, Monty, Baylor, they finished 8-5 and 6-3 in conference. Hell of a turnaround for Dave Aranda. Okay. Who are the worst teams in the Big 12? Oklahoma State, Arizona, UCF, Utah, Houston, Cincinnati, Kansas. Just remember those names. Here are Baylor's wins. Tarleton State, Air Force, Texas Tech, Oak State, TCU, West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas. Who did they lose to? Utah, Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State. So let me get this right. You're 8-5. Your 8 wins are against small non-con teams and the worst of the Big 12. And your losses are against the best of the Big 12. So much like the Big Ten, you got high on the hog with those losers and you lost to the best teams you faced.
Yeah.
It's Penn State. You got fat on losers and you lost to the best teams you faced. It's Indiana. You got fat on losers and you lost to the best teams you faced. It plays out every year. And maybe that's Ole Miss this year in the SEC, right? Could be. But I look at the bottom half of this and I say to myself, man, TCU at 9-4, holy kajibalides. I'm not really sure what that means. Who did TCU get 9 wins against? Stanford, Long Island, Kansas, Utah, Texas Tech, Oak State, Arizona, and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Oh man, Marty, K-State, 9-4, that elite football team. UT Martin, Tulane, Arizona, Oak State, Colorado, West Virginia, Kansas, and Cincinnati. The mediocre teams, and what do they all have in common? What did Utah and Oak State, and what did they have in common? You don't have franchise quarterbacks who can throw you to wins. Baylor doesn't. Oh, Marty, did you see Baylor's quarterback? There. Marty, they're 8-5. You're out your goddamn mind. Okay. What happened against Iowa State? Baylor. Oh, but Sawyer, 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. You gave up 43 points to Iowa State.
It's tough.
Right? Like, you guys, we can play this game all day. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
It's not. Why is the Big 12 a mediocre league? Because Oak State, Utah, the state of Texas are not good. Why is the Big Ten a mediocre league? Because it's really a 2-team league, we found out in ugly fashion with Oregon. It's Oregon and it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
Michigan had an off year. Penn State's an average team. James Franklin ain't that guy.
Yeah.
And then there's everybody else in that league until somebody rises. Indiana, we can go through the SEC too if you want. Why is the SEC a deep league? Just to placate you. Why is the SEC a deep league? Well, here's exactly why the SEC is a deep league. Texas, 13-3. Georgia, 11-3. Tennessee, 10-3. Bama, 9-4. Even a mediocre LSU team, 9-4. South Carolina, 9-4. Ole Miss, 10-3. Missouri, 10-3. Like any of those, and let's talk about Ole Miss rather, because everybody hates Lane Train. I'm the only one on the planet who thinks he's a decent, not excellent football coach. You can't lose the Florida game. What if he had won the Florida game? Oh, but Marty, he didn't. No, but Marty's. What if he had won the Florida game? They're in the college football playoff.
Agreed.
And you want to talk about wins and losses. Look at Brian Kelly at LSU. Brian Kelly doesn't have Lane Kiffin's defense, and he doesn't have Lane Kiffin's offense. And yet he still beat Lane Kiffin 29-26. Okay, you can't lose to A&M, Bama, and Florida 3 consecutive weeks and think you're a good football team. But when I look at the SEC, you don't accidentally play Missouri's schedule, right? You don't accidentally play South Carolina, Alabama, Texas A&M, like Boston College when they were ranked. Like you don't get the free pass in the SEC. Now, granted, Mississippi State was 0-8, 2-10. Kentucky was 1-7, 4-8. Auburn was 5-7. Oklahoma was 6-7. Everybody else in that league, including Vandy, Arkansas, was there a better story the last month of the season than Florida at 8-5? Florida went 8-5. Their losses were to Georgia, Texas, Miami, Texas A&M, and Tennessee.
Yeah, that's why they retained Buddy. That's why he's coming back.
I said their losses were to Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. 3 of the best teams in that league.
And look at the Miami loss, right? Miami was one of the best teams in college football.
41-17. So my point is, when we're talking about depth and good teams, and there's quality, there's depth in the SEC that does not exist in the Big Ten. Wasikowski, Indiana was 11-1. Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Okay.
You guys make this so easy, bro. Like,
here's what I don't understand. Okay, they were 11-1. You want to die on this hill? And actually, they were 11-2. But who cares? In regular season, they were 11-1. Here are their wins. And you tell me who's the good team on this schedule. Florida Atlantic, Western Illinois, UCLA. Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern. Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, who they beat 66-0. Purdue was 1-11. Maryland, who they beat 42-28, was 1-8, 4-8. Northwestern. Do you see the commonalities here? Do you see the commonalities? Wisconsin is the only bad team at the bottom of the Big Ten at 5-7, 3-6, who was not on Indiana's schedule. They played Michigan State, Nebraska, UCLA, Washington. 11-1 in the regular season. You might remember, I can't, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Maybe you could help me. Indiana's only loss was, that's right. They got their shit kicked at the shoe. Who's the only good team that they played this year? Oh, Ohio State.
With that crappy quarterback,
And then they get into they get into the college football playoff, and they ran into Notre Dame, who they gave up 27 points to. Come on, man. Come on. We can go round and round about this. Mike Smith. Utah could not beat a crackhead in the second half of their season. Could not.
Nope.
Could not. Sir Bob Love, Indiana destroyed most of those teams because they're bad football teams.
Yeah, they're terrible. We agree on that.
Brandon Butler, you're saying Car Wash State wasn't good Big Ten State. Go Wildcats. That's exactly right. Who did the SEC beat besides SEC teams? Well, what? And again, I think that this is Greg Skanky, the one that everybody thinks is a jerk off. What's his point? We don't have to play anybody else, and we shouldn't play anybody else because we're the best in the business. So when you beat an SEC team, does that look good on your resume?
It does.
I think it does. I think it does. I think it does. But that's just me. It is what it is. Mayor Caruso, Utah would have beat Indiana this year. I think they would have been. They would have been. But it's fine. It's fine. Ferris Khan, Indiana's only losses were to two teams in the final game. Right, but who were their wins? Did they get exposed? Did Penn State get exposed? Did SMU get exposed? Did Boise get exposed? Did Penn State have a free pass to the semifinal? I think they did.
Mm-hmm.
Did Oregon get exposed? Oregon. Let's play the Oregon game. You guys want to play the Oregon game? 13-1. Okay.
Best football team in the country up until the Ohio State game.
Idaho, Boise, Oregon State, UCLA, Michigan State, Ohio State, 32-31. They beat Ohio State at home. Good win. Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington, Penn State. So, how many quality wins are on that schedule? 2. Because you got to say Penn State's a quality win. What our opinions don't matter. They went to the college football playoff semifinal. Quality win. Other than that, who did they beat? They beat Purdue. Well, they beat Maryland. They beat Wisconsin, Michigan State, like UCLA, the bottom half of the Big Ten. And that's the real issue.
Yeah.
How does Oregon, or like Indiana, did Indiana run into any of the buzzsaws? Only one. Right? It is what it is. Man.
Your record is not the only indicator of if you're a good team or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not the reality. Like,
Georgia was exposed. I think there's something to that. Once Carson Beck got hurt, I think a lot of people felt like they couldn't keep going. And I think Georgia's biggest issue was injuries. I think we can all agree on that. They were so dinged up, but so is everybody. But why were they dinged up? Because they've played so much football in so many big games that are faster, more physical, more emotional. Your adrenaline and your adrenal glands, like it's a war of attrition at that level, right? So yeah, Georgia absolutely backslid this year. No doubt about it. Right? I look at Alabama. You don't go through the change. You don't lose Caleb Downs. You don't lose all the talent they lost, including Nick Saban, and stay at that level. Alabama backslid. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And yeah, and everybody says Carson Beck was mediocre, but he's better than a guy who had no experience. Was he good? No, we talked about it ad nauseum on this show.
Well, Carson Beck was one of the best quarterbacks in college football when they beat Texas. No?
Yeah, and I agree. Alabama, Mercer. But if you're the SEC, why would you schedule anybody but Mercer at that point? And we've argued over this on the show. Does it behoove you, Indiana, to play a really difficult schedule? No, it doesn't. Because you're locked in. The Big Ten is locked in. Why would you play a more difficult schedule?
Yeah, you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
You would not. You would not. Snymey, Gunnar Stockton was the bright spot for Georgia versus Notre Dame.
Okay.
Anyway, would they have? Never mind. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. The Monty Show, as always, is presented by our good friends at The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. You guys always love the conversation. Always love it. Thanks for being here. On your way out the door, make sure you hit the like button. A lot deeper on Ohio State and Notre Dame tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have more on Prime and the Chicago Bears and Fat Ed.
Yeah.
Love talking to you guys every day. Again, hit the like button on the way out the door. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.